It's now after lunch. It's 1 o'clock. This is some of the rubble that was laying around, and it's soft, but it would hold together, I think. Let's see if we can take the forms off, maybe. Still nice and wet. Now that one got dried out. Let's do it like this. Let's try that test block first. There we go. I thought this was going to be easier than that. Now the block wants to fall out. There we go. The wood's been covered with, we got some little voids in there. Some probably polyacrylic. So it shouldn't be soaking up any water. But some of these center blocks were tight to start with, so maybe I need to loosen them up, make them looser. There we go. See, these are the two I made when it was still quite, when it was mushier, more fluidic. And these two I made towards the end when it was setting up. At the end, actually, I'd filled the other mold. I'd filled the other mold entirely, and then I did this one, these two. So that tells me I probably need to work faster. These look pretty good. Let's put him away. But it's a little on the fragile side, so I think I'm gonna wait till maybe this evening before I take the form off of this thing. Late afternoon, and going to decant the baby. Oh, it's hot, but you know, the sun's been shining on it up till recently. Maybe still is. Yep. Okay. This isn't surprising, but busting along the edge a little bit. If I'd cleaned that up a little better, it might not have happened. But we still have voids, which confirms my desire to go with a no, it's smaller down there than down here, with a vibrator. And the next question is, will it lift up? This is going to be a hot trivet or a plinth for my muffin tray. Now the bottom looks pretty decent, and she is hot. So let's turn it over. They don't taste very good. Let's get some water on this thing. Now the concrete actually setting probably makes a difference for something like this that'll never be fired. But for the ones that are fired, it's going to break the concrete down anyway. And so I'm not sure if me fussing about it keeping wet is all that important, but I guess that's what I'll do for a while. Wondering why I'm standing in front of an old freezer in front of a dilapidated greenhouse. I'll tell you. The greenhouse was covered with PVC panels. They were clear and it was very pretty when they were new. But as you may or may not know, the sun is horrible on PVC. And we do have a bit of altitude here, so the UV is considerable. And it not only turned brown, it disintegrated. And if you're wondering about the freezer, let me tell you. When I made my first piece of refractory, I let it dry out. The towel was covered with plastic and the plastic was over it. I thought I had weight on top of it. I came outside and the plastic was gone and the towel was dry. So I don't want my refractory drying out before it's cured, before the cement sets up. So I'm using this freezer as a humidity chamber. The freezer's leaning back a bit, and there's about an inch of water in here. Comes up to the front of the brick actually, and I have my little test cubes, and we'll talk more about them in a minute. But the towel wicks up water from the freezer and keeps my slab wet. Now, first thing I want to mention is we have voids, and I'm hoping the vibration will help with that. The stuff was, when I started, the stuff was on the runny side, and by the time I finished, it was so thick I couldn't work with it. And the bottom came out very nice replica of what the cat food bag that it was laying on. Good impression of that. And it's coming along nicely. I'm going to leave it in here, I don't know how long, a week or two, and have to take a look at the table and see when concrete, there's a golden spot where it hits the majority of its strength, and it's out like a week or two. Can't remember which, but it can sit in here. The water doesn't evaporate, and we're in no great hurry. As you can see, I hope, the first slab I made was 2.5 inches. The second is 2 inches, and I think I can go thinner. I'm trying to determine what thickness I need to cast a shell that will be self-supporting, and this is 2. We can try 1.5 inches, maybe even 1 inch. Nothing thinner than that, I don't think, but this looks pretty good actually. Some people are saying that I cast this too wet. I'm not entirely sure that's true. It may be, but maybe not. The material, the clay, was still absorbing water while I was working with it, is my theory, and that I actually had a pretty stiff mixture compared to what something would have if they mixed it by hand.